Hey, so I'm really excited to be talking with you today about The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare for our The Great Conversation discussion that we've been going over all year long. Lots of things to kind of cover here. First, just to let you know, why did I pick this one? Well, number one, it's a great play with lots of really good, meaty, it's a pun, you'll understand the pun here in a minute, lots of good, really meaty ideas. Um, Furthermore, it has to do with anti-Semitism and Jews, and and we just finished Night, and we are going to go into Romeo and Juliet. So it seems to me this perfect bridge from Night about anti-Semitism and Jews and the Holocaust, transitioning into William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, because William Shakespeare wrote The Merchant of Venice. Now, you might get a chance to read this next year as in your sophomore or 10th grade year. Um, I don't know if all the sophomore teachers teach it anymore. I think it's becoming less and less popular at that level. So it's possible you will not read it, but at least this way you'll have an understanding of the idea, because frankly, it's just a really good play. Um, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. The Great Conversation, looking at literature throughout time, looking at the course of history, and how can we engage in a story that's 500 years old, 1,000 years old? How can we engage in stories from cultures and ideas that are sometimes foreign to us? The truth is, a lot of these ideas are not actually that far away from where we are at. And that's why we can have these dialogues, this conversation throughout time. So let's go ahead and take a look at, kind of the 80,000 foot overview here. Merchant of Venice, written by William Shakespeare, written in 1596. Here's the basic plot. Antonio borrows money from Shylock to give to his friend so his friend can get married. Antonio is mean to Shylock. I mean, really mean to Shylock all the time. Unfortunately, Antonio's investments don't pan out, and Antonio can't pay Shylock back. So Shylock wants his pound of flesh as payment. Get it? Meaty pound of flesh. You're thinking, a pound of flesh? Yes, your flesh, a pound of your body, and we'll get there. All right. Why is this important? Why is this play important? All people bleed. All people are people. We need to face our differences, overcome our prejudices, and that people from around the world, different cultures, there are things that make us different, and that's hard. But there are lots of good reasons why we should give people a break and try and be more merciful and more generous and genuine with people. So let's take a look at some of the details of the story a little bit closer. Here we have Bassanio. Bassanio needs money so he can marry Portia, his girlfriend. Right? Portia, you think like the sports car Porsche? I don't know. It's spelled differently. I don't think it's really the same, but whatever. Bassanio, he needs money so he can marry Portia. He's broke. So Bassanio goes to his friend Antonio to borrow some money. Antonio wants to help his friend, but all of his money is invested in his shipping fleet, boats out on the ocean, buying and selling of goods and things. So when they return, Antonio's going to have lots of money. And so Antonio is feeling bold. And so Antonio goes to another man, Shylock, who we'll talk about in a minute, and borrows money from Shylock. And Shylock is a Jewish moneylender. We might think of this person as like a loan shark today. So anyway, Shylock hates Antonio because Antonio is mean to him. Every time they see each other in the streets, Antonio calls him names. Antonio says anti-Jewish remarks. Antonio berates Shylock. And so the fact that Shylock is willing to do business with Antonio at all is kind of interesting. So here is Antonio. This is Bassanio's friend and a true anti-Semite. He is very mean to Shylock the Jew. So Antonio owns ships that sell goods, and they are all out on their different errands, their shipping missions, And so he doesn't have any cash right now. So he is going to borrow some money to help his friend Bassanio. All right. So Shylock is a Jewish moneylender. As I said, that moneylender, you might think of it today as like a loan shark, not a bank, okay? But someone who's going to charge you an extreme amount of money. For example, if you borrow $100 from a bank might charge you, you pay back the 100 plus $10 in fees, so $110. Well, a loan shark's like, yeah, you can borrow the $100, but we're going to charge you $50, right? So now you have to pay back $150. So Shylock would have been sort of similar to that. You could also think of someone as like Scrooge from the Christmas Carol stories. Definitely has a Shylock vibe to him. All right. So, the pound of flesh. Shylock agrees to make the short-term loan to Antonio, but in a moment of dark humor, he makes a condition. The loan must be repaid in 3 months, or Shylock will exact a pound of flesh from Antonio. Literally, 1 pound of Antonio's body. Well, Antonio is confident that that's not a problem, so he agrees. He borrows the money from Shylock, and he gives the money to his friend, and his friend goes to find Portia. Right? Portia's looking for a husband. She likes Bassanio. So here's what's going on here. Portia has a very unfortunate situation in her life as well. Her father has died, and in his will, he said that anyone who wants to marry Portia has to guess between 3 boxes or 3 caskets, 3 packages. Okay? One of them will contain a portrait of Portia, and the person who picks correctly will get to marry Portia. Kind of an odd way to pick a husband. I recognize that. Or rather, to pick a husband for your daughter when you're dead. Yeah, it's weird. But anyway, if the suitor chooses incorrectly, the suitor must agree to never marry again for the rest of his life. So it's kind of an all or nothing deal here, right? We get the Prince of Morocco and the Prince of Aragon. They come and they fail the test, and they're rejected. And so Bassanio's taken on quite the risk here. All right, so Bassanio shows up to take the casket challenge. In order to marry Portia, he must choose the correct casket. And if he guesses wrong, he can never marry. So, is Portia worth this kind of bet? 2 men have thought yes, but then they lost. Now Bassanio is thinking she is definitely worth it. All right, so which one is it? A lead casket is a cheap and uninteresting box. Think of it literally lead, kind of like what's in your pencils, that kind of dull gray, and it's just blah, right? Not a very good looking casket. Okay. And of course, inside is this priceless picture of Portia. Oh, look at that alliteration. Priceless picture of Portia. Okay. So it's this heavy, colorless box that contains the most valuable and precious gift. Get it? Don't judge things from their outside. Don't look at the box and think, ugh, it's not worthy. Well, treasures can be hidden inside. All right. And Bassanio guesses, and he picks the pale, the boring lead box. Inside is the portrait of Portia. He guesses correctly, and they get married. Ah, sweet love, true love picked by a dad's will in a casket. Well, Shakespeare, whatever. It's moving on. All right. So let's get to the best part, the pound of flesh, where Shylock literally has the knife, and he's just about ready to cut into Antonio's body. Okay? This is in a courtroom, because they've gone to court and they're battling it out, and Shylock wants his revenge. Shylock wants his payment. It was an agreement made that Antonio agreed to. Shylock. So Antonio's ships have been wrecked, and Antonio has no money, and so Shylock gets his payment. On one hand, Shylock is pissed because his daughter ran away and married someone who Shylock disapproved of. On the other hand, he gets to torture Antonio, and it will also kill Antonio, because how could you take a pound of a person's body and not kill them? It's basically impossible. All right, so Antonio's always been mean to Shylock. Shylock's going to get his revenge. He's going to take his pound of Antonio's body. But from where in the body do you cut a pound of flesh? And that's the question. Right before the knife strikes, where do you take a pound of flesh? In walks a lawyer. It's secretly Portia in disguise. She's got the little goatee painted onto her face because that's actually a woman. Right? Okay. In an effort to help her new husband, Bassanio, and Bassanio is Antonio's friend, so she wants to help her husband, and by helping her husband, she's going to help her husband's friend. Right? Portia comes into the courtroom dressed as a lawyer, and she states that Shylock can have his pound of flesh. Yes, take your pound of flesh. And right as Shylock's about ready to take that knife and drive it into Antonio's body, she goes, up. Wait. You cannot take a single drop of blood. There was no blood in the arrangement, only flesh. And Shylock's like, wait a second, you've got to be kidding me. A pound of flesh would, of course, be that. And she's like, no. You can't have it if there's blood. If Shylock does cause Antonio to bleed, Shylock will then be put to death because it's illegal for a Jew, and here's where we get some more of this anti-Semitism, for a Jew to hurt a Christian in this cultural, historical context. If a Jew hurts a Christian, the Jew is killed. I'm not saying that's right. That's just the story. Okay? So, Shylock is devastated. And then Portia continues. And she says, moreover, you conspired to murder a Venetian citizen. And so you have to give up all of your money. So not only do you not get your pound of flesh, but now you, Shylock, have to pay all of your money. Half goes to the city-state of Venice, and the other half goes to your enemy, Antonio. Shylock doesn't get his pound of flesh. He has to give up all of his money, and half of that money goes to his enemy. Antonio, trying to be gracious, once he's gathered himself and been very happy to not die, he gives half of his money back to Shylock on a couple of conditions. One, Shylock has to give the money to his daughter who ran away with someone Shylock doesn't like, and that devastates Shylock. And Shylock must convert to Christianity. A broken Shylock accepts this agreement. And then Antonio's ships arrive. They did not, in fact, sink. His investments are safe and sound, and all celebrate this happy affair. And actually, in the end of this play, it kind of turns into what would be considered a comedy or a happy ending. It's got this romance story in it, but man, it's got some of these deep, meaty, soulful moments with Shylock really desperate for his revenge. Now, we'll talk about this in a minute. It's very much anti-Semitic. Shylock the Jew is clearly the villain in this story. And in fact, all of the Elizabethans, well, I mean, they're Venetians, but the English audience, they laugh at Shylock. They're the Christian culture, and Shylock is the Jewish culture. Okay? The Jewish culture is bad, the Christian culture is good. Now, as you read the story, there are some problems with both sides. The Christians do not act very Christianly. And the Jew, Shylock, he has some character faults as well. He's a villain, but he has some really good points. Let's talk about love of money for one, because that is still a common stereotype today that Jews love money, Jews as the moneylenders. Part of that comes from this idea of the play in our culture, where we get this image of the Jewish moneylender. So, love of money. Both the Christians and Shylock have strong relationships with money. At first, it seems that the Christians are generous and selfless, and Shylock is greedy and selfish. Okay? But we do see that Shylock seems genuinely bothered by relational aspects of his life, specifically with his daughter. Okay? And the Christians do act at times as if motivated solely by money. Antonio, he's kind of a greedy dude, and although he is loving and kind to his friend, he has some character flaws as well. All right. So, love of money is definitely one of these complicated things. It's not just one side or the other. There's no perfect angels in the story. Even though at the end, Antonio and Bassanio and Portia, they go off on their happy, merry way, and they're supposed to be the heroes, they still have some pretty bad flaws that, as the readers, we need to wrestle with, and we need to try and deal with that. Let's talk about mercy. Okay? Mercy, the idea of giving someone something they don't deserve. That's what mercy is. You deserve punishment, and I'm going to let you go. Right? Mercy is you are guilty, and yet I am letting you be free. You are guilty, you owe the penalty, and yet we are taking the penalty away. That's mercy. So let's talk about mercy. Everyone expects Shylock to show Antonio mercy. When Antonio's ships sink, the audience and everybody in their world thinks, come on, Shylock, give him a break. Come on. His ship sank. Give him some extra time. He'll pay you back. Just give him a break. And Shylock doesn't show any mercy. Okay? Shylock wants his pound of flesh. The Elizabethan audience would have expected that from a Jew, right? They would have expected that from Shylock, to be evil and show no mercy. Shylock was a Jew, and in Christian society, Jews were the villains. All right, now, when Portia comes in as the lawyer and she has the upper hand, she doesn't show mercy to Shylock. She could say, hey, Shylock, you can't take the flesh, and left it at that. But instead, Portia kind of goes, and digs the knife into Shylock, and she says, look, not only do you not get your revenge, but now I'm taking everything from you, and you are going to be left with absolutely nothing. That's not very merciful. Portia does not repay mercy where it could have been paid. So that's two chances where mercy could have been shown, and it wasn't. Antonio is the only one who shows a little bit of mercy towards Shylock by saying you can take your money back, but you got to give it to your daughter. Maybe that's mercy, but it also might have just been more mean, really messing with Shylock instead. So basically, the play shows how difficult a concept like mercy really is and how we don't ever quite get it right. Okay, justice is certainly in this. You get what you deserve. That is justice. You commit a crime, you get a punishment. And that justice and mercy, they are two sides of the same coin. One side, you deserve, well, the community deserves justice because of your crime. The other side is that the community gives mercy, even though you are guilty, right? That's mercy and justice. So, technically, the law grants Shylock his pound of flesh. You get your pound of flesh, right? And it's not just for the investment, but it's for the years of the torture from Antonio. Shylock is going to get his justice. He's going to get his revenge. But he doesn't get justice. He doesn't get his money. He was owed it. He doesn't get his revenge for the terrible treatment. Instead, Shylock leaves humiliated and ruined. So then we as the readers ask ourselves, is there such a thing as true justice? Can we give justice in our human endeavors, in our courts of law, in our communities, and in our relationships with people? Are we ever able to actually give justice? Okay? What goes around comes around. Shylock says that everything he learned about how to behave, he learned from Christians. So you, Christians, have taught me this, he says. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. You have shown me how to behave, and so you're just getting a taste of your own medicine. What you have given me, I am giving back to you. That's Shylock's reasoning. So Perhaps we might call it karma. Fate or destiny is perhaps another way to think about it. This idea of, do you believe that what goes around comes around? And lastly, I want to talk just briefly on the idea of female power. Portia here, she's kind of a strong female character. When she comes in disguised as the lawyer, the whole room listens to what she has to say. And the court does exactly what she says. She has power, and yet she doesn't have the power to choose the man she loves out of love. She's got to do what her father says, even though her father's dead. So it's one of the, again, it's complicated. In Shakespeare's day, women tended not to have much power in their own lives. As we go into Romeo and Juliet, we'll talk about that. How much power does Juliet have, especially when we look at Juliet and her father in their relationship? So it's interesting. On one hand, Portia seems like a very powerful woman, capable of great things. But on the other hand, her options are also very, very limited. But it doesn't matter because in the end, she's married and all is happy, right? Because it's, happy ending because it plays 2 hours and Shakespeare didn't do really a lot of sequels. So anyway, that's one of the interesting things. And that's why it's fun to read, because as we are in conversation, we think, how is mercy and justice being shown in our world today? The love of money. How do we see the love of money over the love of people? How do women today have power in their lives? Can they decide who they're going to marry? And if they can, are those marriages always perfect and happy? And do they have power once they're in the marriages? And there's just all kinds of questions about that, right? And there's no easy answers. That's why it's a conversation. You go back and forth, back and forth. All right, let's talk about one of the most important parts of this play. One of the most important passages of the play here. Passage I absolutely love. It's super good. There's a really good movie version. That's where some of the pictures come from. But I can't recommend it because of this very scene. It's kind of inappropriate. All right, but here's what Shylock says. Shylock says, I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why? Revenge. The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction. It's so good. It's such a great passage. There's so many lines. We still use these today. If you prick us, do we not bleed? We hear this all the time, which basically means if you cut me, won't I bleed? It doesn't matter if I'm African, African-American, Mexican, Guatemalan, Chinese, Japanese. It doesn't matter if I'm, North American, Canadian, or a Frenchman, or from anywhere else. It doesn't matter the color of the skin. If you cut us, we bleed in the same way. Shylock is saying we're all the same. Look at this. He says, I'm a Jew, yes, but I have all the same parts as you Christians. I have affections and passions in the same way. I eat the same food that you eat. A sword will kill me just the way it will kill you. Diseases, like the bubonic plague and probably COVID as well, subject to the same diseases. And yet we're healed by the same way. We are warmed and cooled by the same weather. We are so similar. If you cut us, will we not bleed? If you tickle us, won't we laugh? If you poison us, we will die. And if you do us wrong, the way Antonio has done wrong to me, Shylock, if you wrong us, don't you think we're going to want revenge? He says, If I, as a Jew, do something wrong to a Christian, you come after me, the Jew. You want your revenge. You teach all of us what to do, you Christians, Shylock says. He says, so, because of your example, I am now learning from you, and I want my revenge. And here's this great. The villainy you teach me, the evil I have learned, I will now show back to you. That which you have taught me, I have learned, and I'm giving it right back. And in fact, I will do better as I teach you this lesson. I will better the instruction. I will raise the bar. I will make it so much better for me and so much worse for you. I will have my revenge. Oh, it's so good. Whew. All right. One of the other famous lines in this play is, all that glitters is not gold. And we hear this all the time, although often we hear all that glitters is gold. We've kind of changed it. Like if you're a Smash Mouth fan, all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Yeah, you know that one? Hey now, you're a rock star. Get your game on. Go play. Hey now. Yeah? No? All right. All right, but here's the idea. All that glitters is not gold. Just because it's fancy, just because it's sparkly, doesn't mean it's valuable. We see this particularly in the casket scene, where Bassanio has to choose the beautiful boxes. They might not hold true treasure. So, all right, I think that pretty much sums us up. Let's end here. How does this connect to your life, the reader? Sorry. First of all, I believe you should be familiar with Shakespeare's stories, even if you don't read them, and you should read them. They are excellent. You could watch movie versions of them. There's lots. There's different stage productions of them. There's all kinds of different books and movies, and 10 Things I Hate About You is a movie based on Shakespeare, and lots of examples. Okay? You should know Shakespeare's stories. I think that you will understand and appreciate and enjoy so many more things when you know Shakespeare's stories. In fact, I'm willing to bet that within the next few weeks, you will probably hear some sort of Merchant of Venice allusion, because they're out there. And now you know the story, and you'll be like, oh, I've heard of Shylock. Oh, I've heard, if you prick me, won't I bleed? Yeah. 2, anti-Semitism is as old and older than Shakespeare. So even though Night is from, the 1930s and 40s, we're going back to the 1500s, but anti-Semitism goes back even further than that. We are a human race of haters and racists. It's terrible, right? That's our job, to be in this conversation so we can learn to do better, because we haven't figured it out yet. You'd think we could, but we can't. Check your own bias. Check your own prejudices. Remember, we all bleed. Let's try to be kind to each other. Okay? For any number of reasons, right? Whether you're wearing your mask or not wearing your mask, whether you're social distancing or not social distancing, these kinds of things, the way in which we respond, we can show mercy. We can ask for justice, but we can do so in a kind, loving way. Okay? Remember, all people bleed. It doesn't matter the color of their skin or their racial background or where they're from. So yeah. And lastly, mercy and justice are great ideals. They are great ideals. Things that we should all long for in our lives. But they are hard to master. They are hard to do well. Our human cultural creations, our laws, our rules, our governments, they try and do what they can. They're not perfect. We've all seen stories of people who should be punished and who haven't. We've all seen people who have been punished and shouldn't. And that should always remind us, we haven't figured out mercy and justice quite yet. We're always working towards it, always trying to do better. Okay? All right. I think that's it for now. The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare, connecting Night with Romeo and Juliet, and I'm so excited to do Romeo and Juliet. It's going to be fun. You guys are going to love it. All right, that's all for now. Have a good day. voices go. Holy shooting stars break the mold. Okay.